Welcome to episode 20 of Becoming MindStrong. We are officially out of our teenage years. Today's conversation is about one of the most popular diets out there right now, and it's something I get asked about constantly, and it's something I'm very passionate about because if you know me, you know that I'm all about making this a sustainable lifestyle. And the question is keto the key to weight loss? Check it out. Welcome to Becoming MindStrong, the official podcast of MindStrong Fitness. My name is Rachel. I'm the owner and head coach of MindStrong Fitness, and I am here to teach you truth. No more bullshit, no more point systems, no more shakes, no more wraps. This is math and science, and we're going to learn how to do it together. Ready? Let's rock and roll. So before we jump into the specifics of if keto is the key or not, I want to start with what the idea behind the diet is. And I'm going to talk about keto specifically, but this is true of any diet that's based on low carb or no carb. They're all essentially trying to do the same thing. So the reason it's called the keto diet is because the end goal is to put your body in what's called a state of ketosis. And the idea behind ketosis is that if you restrict carbs long enough, and this is a fact, this is how our bodies work, this is not made up. If you restrict carbs long enough, your body will look towards an alternative energy source. It'll put itself in a state of ketosis. It'll produce something called ketones. This is obviously all pointing back to the word keto, and it will burn fat instead of carbs. Now, understanding that, before we even get into this too much, I just want to pick apart what I just said. Your body will go to an alternative energy source. Let's think about what that means. The human body is pretty freaking incredible. If you've ever studied any kind of even basic biology, the stuff that our body is doing without our conscious thought is amazing. The fact that it can heal ourselves, the fact that we can breathe and pump as much blood as we do and wire together neural connections without us doing anything is freaking amazing. So the way our body designed, I'm going to be very blunt here, doesn't need our help. It's an amazing specimen. And the way it was designed is to process carbs for energy. And this has nothing to do with how you believe we were created or if you believe in a Big Bang or God or the universe or anything else. I'm talking about the math and science of how the human body was created. No one is debating the fact that our body is designed to go to carbs for energy. I'm sure there are people debating that fact, but this is a place where we can say they are wrong. If you study how the body is designed, we were designed to go to carbs first for energy. So before we get into anything, I just want to acknowledge that what we are literally trying to do when we go on keto or we go on any low carb or no carb diet is we are essentially saying to our bodies, I don't trust you to know how to function at your best, so I'm going to try to trick you. I'm not going to give you what you want as your primary energy source. I'm going to force you to use something else because I believe that tricking you is the answer to weight loss. And when we word it like that, we can hear how ridiculous that sounds, right? But that's what's at the basis. If we're going to get blunt about this process, that's what's at the basis of these diets. We are telling our body that the way you are designed is not working for me. We have made ourselves believe, or more accurately, mass marketing has made us believe that our bodies don't know how to do this on their own, or what works according to math and science just doesn't work for me. I go against the laws of math and science, so I need to trick my body. So before anything, let's just make a blanket statement here. The answer to weight loss does not lie in tricking your body. You do not need to force your body to do something it was not designed to do. The reason that you're not losing weight, if this is something you've struggled with, is not because you defy the laws of math and science. It's because you're eating more calories than you burn. You're eating in the wrong proportions for your body. The answer does not lie in tricking your body. And that's what's at the core of all of these diets. Okay? That's first and foremost. Now, we're going to go back to the very first episode that we did and something you've heard me say endlessly if you've been listening to each episode of the podcast. Weight loss comes down to calories in versus calories out. And I'm going to shout it from the rooftops until it wires in our brain because we are so wired to believe that it is more complicated than that, and it is not. Whether you are eating too many grams of carbs, too many grams of fat, too many grams of protein, or for most of us, it's a combination of each of it, fat loss comes down to eating less calories than you burn. So the answer to this is not to cut out all carbs. It's not to go on this high fat or high protein diet. It's to learn how to do this in a way where you're eating the right portions, the right amount of carbs, fat, and protein for your diet. And again, it is not in tricking your body or cutting it all out. Okay, now the next step I want to take with this, again, we're not talking about anything math or science yet. We're just talking about logic. I want you to think about what is being advocated for in these diets. On diets like keto, they are sitting here telling you bacon is okay, hot dogs are okay, whatever other high protein, high fat food is okay. But then anything with carbs, and I'm speaking very general here, there's more, depending what version of this you do, it gets more detailed. But anything with carbs is evil, right? Bananas are the devil, but bacon, go for it. Now, let's not even talk math and science. Does that seem logical to you? We did a whole podcast episode on good foods and bad foods, and we talked about the fact that it's not about good or bad. It's about nutritious versus not nutritious. So let's just pause for a second and have this conversation. Does it seem like the nutritious choice to fill up on bacon or to fill up on any kind of just high fat, tons of meat, tons of whatever else, as long as it's not carbs? Does it make logical sense to say, don't eat bananas, don't eat too much fruit, don't eat whole grains because they're carbs, but bacon is good for you, hot dogs are good for you, steak is good for you? And it's not about cutting out either one of those all the time. I'm not saying never eat steak, never eat bacon, never eat hot dogs, whatever. That's not the answer. The answer is any diet that's sitting here telling you that you cannot have one food, that one food is good and one food is bad, that's already red flag number one, because that's restriction, and restriction doesn't work. But in this case, we're taking it one step further. The food we're saying is bad are freaking bananas. Does that make sense? Does it make sense to say that fruits and vegetables need to be limited because there are carbs in them? Like, if we just take a step back and think about that logically, no, that cannot be the answer. Now, let's talk a little math and science. We've already talked about the fact that what you're doing is you are literally tricking your body. We've talked about the fact that logically, this just doesn't make any sense. We know logically that fruits and vegetables are not bad for us, that the answer to weight loss is not that we struggle with a banana addiction, right? There's another part to this, because let's talk results, right? We're not trying to cover anything up here. We've all seen people go on this keto diet and lose. The scale moves tremendously right away for a lot of people, right? We know people that have gone on keto and they've lost 20 pounds super fast. But here's what we need to understand. And to me, this is the biggest thing. And I'm going to talk more sciencey first, and then I'm going to get into bigger picture. This needs to be about sustainability. You don't need another diet that's going to get you drastic results for a couple months and leave you not only gaining the weight back, but gaining the weight and then some back. We've been on that roller coaster for our entire lives. And we don't need another diet who's just going to keep us on that hamster wheel. So there's two things we need to understand. First and foremost, when you go on a diet that eliminates carbs, the carbs in your body come with water, right? If you get into the science of it, in your glycogen stores, there's water attached to that. So when you get rid of carbs, one of the first things your body does is it releases water. So when people go on keto and they see that massive drop on the scale pretty quickly, the majority of that is water weight. And water weight, as we know from our conversation about water weight, and we did a whole podcast on it, water weight is not fat. And that can be very deceiving. So people are seeing these results, but really they just dropped a bunch of water. And that is not the same as fat loss. So that's the more sciencey thing that we need to understand. More important to me, though, is this idea of sustainability. No one, I don't care if you're a freaking Navy SEAL, nobody is going to go through life as a happy, content, fulfilled, not stressed out human being by living off restriction. And I say that with confidence. I literally say no one, because it goes against human nature. And this is something we've talked about before. It is human nature to avoid pain and seek pleasure, but first and foremost to avoid pain. And any time you go through life in any area, whether it's nutrition, whether it's workouts, whether it's relationships, whether it's business, whether it's financial. Anytime you go through life saying, I can't, you want to do that thing more. And at some point, you're going to crack and you're going to cave and you're going to binge. That's just the nature of human beings. That has nothing to do with you. That has nothing to do with a lack of willpower. Yes, some of us have more willpower than others. It's a muscle we can train, but it is against human nature to live off restriction. And keto or low carb or no carb is the epitome of living off restriction. Every time you're going to a party and you're saying, I can't eat this, I can't eat that, I can't eat this. You're going to your freaking child's wedding and you're not having the cake because you're determined to live your life on a low carb or no carb diet. That is not the answer, right? And let's just talk big picture for a second. Picture yourself 105 years old. We're going to be super optimistic here. 105 years old on your deathbed looking back at your life. And let's say you have the willpower of a Navy SEAL and you've spent the last 15 years of your life avoiding carbs. How important does that seem right now? Are you going to look back at your life and be like, hell yeah, I avoided carbs for 15 years? Or are you going to look back on all those celebrations, your kid's wedding, your grandkid's graduation, whatever it is, and you're probably going to sit here and think, man, I wish I had just freaking loosened up. I wish I had the damn cake. I wish I celebrated with my kids instead of being stressed out about what I could or couldn't eat. Like, this is not what life is about. Life is not about showing us how much willpower you have so that you can see a certain number on the scale. Life is about energy. Life is about how we show up in this world. And that is the beauty of taking control of your nutrition. It's being able to go to that party, to that wedding, to that graduation, and enjoying that moment and not giving a shit about what you are or aren't eating, because you know that you're in control. You know that you can enjoy that day thoroughly and not give a second thought to what you are or aren't eating and get right back on with your goals the next day. That's what life is about. It is not about being miserable and putting on these horse blinders and saying, I can or I can't eat this. That is a terrible way to go through life, and that is not the point. So here's the big picture we need to understand. First and foremost, this is not a sustainable lifestyle. You are literally tricking your body to do something it doesn't want to do, to something it was not designed to do, most importantly, for something it does not need to do. You do not need to cut out carbs to lose weight. Secondly, we need to understand there's some science behind it. That weight that people are dropping right away, the majority of it is water weight, and that's coming right back. And third and most importantly, this is about creating a lasting lifestyle. And the way we create a lasting lifestyle is by learning to do this while eating the foods we love. And I don't know about you, but the vast majority of human beings I've met in this world love foods like pasta and rice and pizza on occasion and donuts on occasion and whatever else. And it is not about cutting those foods out. It's about learning how to fit them into your goals so you are not living off restriction. Now, at the end of this conversation, if your answer is, well, Rachel, I've done keto and I love it and it works for me, then in the wise words of the middle schoolers I used to teach, do you, boo-boo, right? This is about learning what works for you. But what I want you to understand is that there's not a single human being on this earth who can sit here and say, keto is the only thing that will work for me. It's just not true, because at the end of the day, it is math and it is science, and weight loss comes down to calories in versus calories out. And you can do that using keto, right? You can only eat high fat, high protein, and low carb foods and still get in a caloric deficit and lose weight. But my money's on the fact that you're going to be pretty miserable doing it that way. And it's not necessary. When you learn to do this in the way that I'm such a fan of tracking macros, you learn to eat a balance of carbs, fat, and protein, which means there's no foods that's off limits. There's no foods that are labeled as bad foods. You learn to hit your weight loss goals eating the foods you love. And that's how we make it a sustainable lifestyle. If you're ready to learn how to make nutrition a totally sustainable lifestyle, grab my free macro cheat sheet at bit.ly.com/macro cheat sheet, bity.com/macro cheat sheet.